It's time for NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. The latest from the Wenatchee Valley and North Central Washington with Steve Hare, Grant Olson, and sports with Eric Granstrom.
Good evening and welcome to NCW Life News. I'm Grant Olson. Before we get to today's top stories, let's take a look outside our weather window, and we are seeing another smoke-filled day around the Wenatchee Valley. Here's a shot looking down at the George Seller Bridge and footbridge. You can see the traffic going by. Not quite as smoky today, I don't think, as we've seen the past couple of days, but this smoke is going to stick around, and I'll talk about how long we can expect the smoke and how long we can expect these hot temperatures, all coming up in your weather forecast a little bit later on in the broadcast. And now a few of the stories we're following for you tonight. Wenatchee's Steve King testifies before the U.S. Senate Committee on Wildfire Technology. A wildland firefighter dies in Montana, and an unusual accident occurs on Easy Street yesterday afternoon. Later on, we'll have sports, your weather forecast, and our feature story today. But first, and in breaking news, there was a two-alarm brush fire reported earlier today, burning on State Route 17 between Leahy Junction and Bridgeport. That road was temporarily closed as fire crews fought that fire. We will have more information on that as it becomes available. Well, it's been over a week now since Wenatchee police officer Albert Gonzalez shot and killed Matthew Folden during a confrontation outside the local Albertsons grocery store. A special investigation unit headed up by the Chelan County Sheriff's Department continues its probe to determine if the lethal use of force was justified. SIU spokesman Captain Edgar Reinfeld commented on the investigation with Steve Hare on today's Wake Up Wenatchee Valley program.
Well, we're living in a new age, the social media age, and certainly that has played a role here in the investigation. Maybe you can tell us to what extent the social media plays.
So social media is a double-edged sword in many ways. We've certainly noted and used our social media thing to push a variety of press releases over the course of the year when we've had major incidents. Some tragic, some interesting, some borderline entertaining, and of course to promote community events. So we've done it for all of that. This is the first homicide, effectively, or major incident where someone ended up dead, where we have used it to push out the material. And so the interesting thing is you push out the press releases. Many people have agendas. Everyone has opinions. Some people have several opinions, and they just start flooding in. And the goal with the social media is to be informative, to be transparent, to maintain and develop that sense of public trust that we're telling you what we can tell you right now, and we're giving it to you directly through the media outlets, through everybody, and then you get feedback. And the interesting thing is the quantity and quality of the feedback that comes. And it's also an appeal. We've used it as a tool to appeal for more witnesses, for people with video or photos to come forward and bring us that side.
And that was the next question I had for you, Captain Edgar Reinfeld with the Special Investigative Unit that's investigating this shooting. Numerous people, as I understand, were at the scene of the shooting that night. How many interviews have been conducted so far? I mean, how many people have you talked to? And how consistent has have the statements been? So
throughout this, I think we're well over 20 people now that have been interviewed. There were a number of people present at the scene before and during, and then a lot more arrived after. People heard about it and immediately fled to the area and are up around the perimeter watching. It is something to see. I will agree, watching the crime scene team do their work is strangely interesting and boring at the same time because so much of it is so slow. But I would say we've interviewed over 20 people. As far as consistency, everyone's point of view is a little bit different. We see an arc of consistency that is continuous through all the interviews, but to go and say that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy all saw exactly the same thing isn't really possible. We have a consistent story that's been achieved across the interviews, but the detail differs so much from person to person, and a lot of it's point of view. We have witnesses that were as far away as 800 feet that saw and heard something. We have witnesses that were as close as probably 100 feet, but had things between them and the scene. So everybody's point of view, and this is always the case when you interview a large number of witnesses, the interesting thing here is we don't have, as far as I know, any real outliers in the interviews. Occasionally, when you interview a large group of witnesses, you'll have this very consistent arc and everything looks pretty squared away. and then you'll find the one person who saw something completely different. And it's difficult to reconcile with everything else.
I think a lot of the inconsistencies we're seeing so far, at least in terms of the social media comments that are being shared with us, has to do with the weapon, or whether or not the man was even armed at the time that he was shot. In your news release, you have stated that a knife was found at the scene, correct?
Yes, the knife was recovered right there.
Do we know what kind of a knife?
We do, but we're not commenting yet.
Depending on the findings of your investigation, would that be passed along to the prosecutor's office, or just where does it go from there?
So this initial wave is the criminal phase, and it is all about were the actions of the officer lawful. Yes, Chelan County Sheriff's Office, Chelan County's prosecutor's office, prosecuting attorney Doug Shea, will be getting all of this package, and they will make the determination where the officer's actions lawful. When that criminal phase is done and that determination has been made, our own internal investigation then occurs. The actual investigation is kind of concurrent. They're able to look at material as it comes by. But the final determinations and the final steps are not made until after determination of lawful or not. And then we go into was it within policy and procedure. And so there's really two steps for the officer involved and for the department itself. Prosecutor looking at was it a crime? Internal systems looking at what policies complied with as a disciplinary matter.
Reinfeld also put out a call for more witness information, and he urges people to call the Chelan County Sheriff's Crime Tip Line, and that's 667-6845. You can find more information about the shooting, including our full interview with Captain Reinfeld, on ncwlife.com. Coming up, Wenatchee's Steve King testifies before the U.S. Senate Committee on Wildfire Technology. A wildland firefighter dies in Montana, and an unusual accident occurs on Easy Street yesterday afternoon. I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching NCW Life News.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue. Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.